this is probably a red flag already, but I immediately got into a situationship with somebody new after the breakup. And it was this girl that I actually met because she was dating one of my best friends at the time.
Yeah.
But they had just been on 2 dates. They had just been freshly met.
No, ma'am.
And
no, ma'am. You can save that part. We can
yeah,
just keep
Welcome to Foster the Podcast.
You like it?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, fine.
You look like a big game hunter.
You said game, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Emmy?
actually fucking hate that picture.
You
I
hate
hope
that
you never
photo?
show it to me again.
That's
yeah,
gonna
I
be
do.
my new look, dude. Me in a cowboy hat with a cigar is my new. That's my new thing.
It's inherently racist, that picture.
It's not.
It is.
Cowboy hat does not equal racism.
No, that picture does.
Why?
Not cowboy hat, that picture.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Foster the Podcast, the official podcast of comedian Justin Foster and cowboy Justin Foster and professional life coach, relationship expert, Kristie Marie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. I was saying I cannot wait to change my look and be the cow. Okay.
moving on. That's dead.
We're done. It's done. We put that to rest.
We have a very special guest today. Actress, model, DJ, influencer,
Actually, none of those things.
musician. McKenna White is our guest today.
A lot of potential.
A lot of
That's
potential.
all.
McKenna White is our guest today.
Yes.
We like to
I'm
bring.
excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us. You said you don't do a lot of podcasts.
I've never done a podcast.
This is your first one?
Very, very rarely ever in front of a camera. Probably only at SIR when Guillermo takes awful pictures of me.
He takes great
But
pictures of you.
That's it.
Here's what we're going to do on this podcast. We're going to teach you to get over your limited beliefs of yourself.
Yep.
You
And we're
got
going to
it.
push through to get you to, I don't know, get confident, stupid, or whatever they
Yeah. Yes.
say. To quote The Simpsons.
Oh, God. Yeah,
Get
that's
confident,
exactly what I
stupid.
need. I'm ready for it.
I'm nervous, to be honest with you, to have two girls from Florida sandwiched between me on this show. So here we are.
That could be scary. I get it.
Hide your wallets, boys.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
locked eyes with such understanding in that moment. Like, oh, yeah, that's correct.
I was real apprehensive about this episode. I was like, do I want to put myself through this?
You're
But-
so right about that.
Well, when you sent in your answers to, I was like, McKenna's never been on a podcast before, but backstory of how I know McKenna in a second. But I have a good feeling about this, and I know that you guys will click. We might be able to help McKenna with some stuff. She'll be able to help the listeners with some stuff. And then as soon as I sent her your answers to the questions, she was like, get her on the show immediately. We
Very
need her
excited.
on right now.
Very
boy.
excited.
So I am very excited. You guys, by the way, are two women who I'm very fond of, but you guys have this sort of the same vibe. You guys
Okay.
are like the pretty cool, confident, but like nerdy girls, which
Okay.
is awesome. She
Nice.
has her like D&D fantasy stuff, and you with the Marvel stuff.
Oh my God.
Nice.
So listen, I've known McKenna for a while, and I've always liked McKenna. But when I loved McKenna, when we went to a movie, there was a big group of us. We were like bookending the group, right? I was here, and she was like way over here, and
Yeah,
there was a
there
row
like
of people.
5 or 6 people in between us.
Right, and we were watching Marvel, and the whole movie we were just down the aisle,
Every
yeah.
reaction, we'd look at each other for
Yeah.
the other person's reaction, and it was just only the two of us
Yeah.
and maybe Peter that were just
Yeah.
in it.
Amazing.
All the cool kids that we were with had no idea what was going
Yeah.
on, and then she would look at me and she would be like, "Red Hulk."
All the little background lore that only we could get. Oh, I loved
Yeah.
it.
I was like, all right.
True Marvel fans.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
Love it.
McKenna's in it.
Absolutely love it.
I feel like I spent a lot of time with both of you guys, and I feel like I knew that you guys were going to get along really good. You guys have the same sort of vibe. You're a little bit softer, and you're a little bit no nonsense.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
I
it's
like no nonsense. That's a nice way to put it.
no nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Kristie's my best friend. Kristie has been in my life for a long time, and the good thing about having someone like Kristie, I think, is you don't let me off the hook.
Correct.
Right? And a lot of
Correct.
friends, I think, will, right? You'll call a lot of
Oh, yeah.
people, and they'll be like, oh, she'll be like, this is when I know when I'm in trouble, when she'll be like, just let me tell you something. As soon as she says that, I'm like, oh, my God. All right. And then she'll you know what I mean? And I was telling somebody about this the other day. I was like, no, literally, my best friend, Kristie, will almost oppositely not take someone else. Like she'll take their side to let me know.
Right.
Which I think is important, right? Because I'm always like, you can frame things a certain way with some people, right? And get sort of the answers that you want.
Right.
Not with this one.
Well, here's the thing: is I don't know people. Like whoever's on the you're my best friend. So whoever you're speaking about, whoever the interaction is with, like I don't know them. Whatever they choose to do with the rest of their life is their problem, right? But if I can help you to be like, hey, maybe look at yourself from this angle. Maybe
you don't say it like that. By the way,
I don't.
Hey, maybe that.
But that's
Just
the
let me tell
idea
you something.
behind it. Is if I can help a friend, I'm down to help a friend. Like whatever their behavior was is not my business,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's good to have that balance and have like that perspective because you probably have other friends that are gonna just tell you what you want to hear.
I've got two people in my life, her and Rob, who will not let me off the hook for anything. I'll be like, I'm gonna call them last because I'm gonna call. I need to hear something what I need to hear first, and then I'll hear the truth later. Kristie is one of those friends.
That's about how it goes.
What part of Florida?
Well, I originally upstate New York was where I was from, but I moved to Tampa when I was like freshly 18. Like pretty much the day I turned 18, I moved to Florida, and I'd been there for 8 years till I moved out to LA. So, yeah, Tampa, St. Pete. Probably, arguably, the worst part of Florida.
I would agree with you.
I
on
hated
that.
living there,
For
but
sure.
every other part of Florida I visited, I liked.
Yeah.
More than where I was.
I agree with that 1,000%. People are like, Florida sucks. I'm like, Florida's great. Tampa. And if you're
Sorry, everyone from Tampa.
sorry if you're a Tampa listener,
I
but
don't miss you, Tampa.
oh my god, that was the only time that we've done a show where someone called the FBI on the club. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, a lady got
That
kicked out.
Checks out.
A lady got kicked out for being drunk. This is a really funny story. I was with, we were with Drew. We were with Drew Lynch, and this lady was like heckling the entire show. She gets kicked out. They try to kick the husband out, and the husband was like, "Well, did I do anything?" And the bouncer was like, "Well, technically no, but we're kicking your wife out." He goes, "Okay, cool," and he stayed and watched the entire show. She
That's
got kicked
actually
out.
hilarious.
Yeah, and was mad that she got kicked out. So she called like the DEA or the FBI. She just was just calling numbers trying to get the venue shut down. And I was like, "This is Tampa. This is a Wednesday night in Tampa."
That's totally checks out for
Yeah.
Tampa. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for not bringing your alligators into the podcast today. And
We left them in the hall.
yeah, they outside. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What brought you out to California from Tampa?
I was in an 8-year relationship that
Nice.
ended pretty abruptly. Mostly I did the breaking up, but it was a pretty mutual kind of situation. I would like to say, putting that on the record. It was
Okay.
it was mutual.
I did most of it,
At
but it was pretty
least-
mutual.
Right.
At least I was told it was mutual at the time. So,
said that?
Yeah. He was very supportive,
Yeah.
and he was like, "You're right." But of course, the story changes all the time. So,
Thank you. You're right is great.
yeah,
That's great.
So I just thought, let's rip the Band-Aid off. We had a house that we owned together,
Mm-hmm.
still do actually. That's another story, but I decided, I just want to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't want to be the kind of person that, you break up and you stay living together for however long and you end up just stuck, So I was like, I've always wanted to live in LA. Like that was the dream. I think the second I was like, I'm ready to get out, I was like, this might be my chance to just completely start over.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of made it happen.
Little crack in the window, you slipped through it.
Yeah, there was a little opportunity and
Mm-hmm.
I took it. And
That's good.
Yeah.
I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, same situation, but the opposite. They broke up and they're still living together, 1-bedroom apartment, sharing the bed. He's like, we're cool, like we're friends, like it's all good. I'm like, there's no way. There's like, that's crazy.
Bring a girl home and see how friendly you are. How about that?
Right. You
Yeah.
can't
Bring a
really
chick home,
do
see how
that.
friendly you
or
guys
the
are.
opposite. If she brings a dude home,
Mm-hmm.
see how friendly you guys are.
Yeah.
I can get messy real quick.
Yeah.
Putting pillows
Not
on
that
the.
I'm not used to
All right, you
that.
two stay over there. I'm gonna stay on this side of the bed. Don't cross my pillow fort.
I
Definitely
moved
very
out here under
special.
similar circumstances. Like I've always wanted to move out here, and then my cousins, like a room opened up in this 4-bedroom house that they were in, and they were like, "Hey, we know you want to live out here. Do you want to come move to California?" And I like left a relationship, a job, an apartment, like just kind of booked it out.
Yeah.
But I always think of that relationship that I was in as like, you know what? I wouldn't have had the push to move here if I wasn't in something that wasn't working there. So, you got something good out of
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
It was
thing.
mutual, so
Yeah,
everyone's
it was-
happy.
it was
Yeah. So.
mutual.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I did get into an immediate situationship right after it ended that also was like kind of a catalyst to bring me out here.
Oh, you got into something there?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, this is probably a red flag already, but I immediately got into a situationship with somebody new after the breakup in Florida.
Well, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah.
Just
Florida.
just Florida.
And it was this girl that I actually met because she was dating one of my best friends at the time.
Yeah.
But they had just like been on like 2 dates. They had just been like freshly met.
No, ma'am.
And
No, ma'am. You can save that part. We can
yeah,
just keep
yeah. But I ended up following her kind of back out to LA, and she had a boyfriend that she got back together with at the time, and so I ended up coming out here with both of them. But
See, everyone's
and kind
happy.
of during the transition of moving out here is the same time it exploded, and so that kind of
The
was
thruple didn't work out?
No, can you
That's
imagine that?
wild. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, no, it didn't work out at all.
It's always such a good idea on paper. You're like, well, I like them, they like that, and then
We all like each other.
yeah, how's this gonna go wrong?
Oh yeah, it imploded real fast. But I have to say that they're a big reason I came out here too, because they were originally from out here and they were planning on moving back at the same time this was all happening, so that was kind of my chance to come out here. But it kind of made everything a lot more complicated, we'll put it that way. But ultimately it brought me here. I'm glad I'm here, and it worked out.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, that's a happy ending.
Yeah.
We love a happy ending.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, I guess.
Just a couple of broken hearts along the way.
Yeah, little manic moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know?
Who see, this is why I love having like bi girls on or talking to bi girls, because they're like, I don't know, I don't know who was the problem in that relationship with the guy or the girl or both, but a lot of times when girls are like,
definitely not me.
what was it you? Of course it wasn't you.
Well, a little bit me. A little bit of all of us.
You ever talk to a bi girl though? She's like, I went on this. The girls sometimes can be like so emotional and crazy, and you're a guy. You're like, yeah, that's what we've been saying.
Yeah, no. But if I had to pin it, she was definitely 1,000% the crazy one in the situation, and I think that's why it didn't work out.
Let me tell you something right now. In a potential thruple between me, a girl, and my husband, I would absolutely be the crazy one. I'd be like, ooh, she's cute. We want to, don't touch her.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be the way that it would go for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not made of the stuff that people who are successfully poly are able to be.
Right. And
This is Kristie's thruple, right? She hooks up with a girl, and then her husband like looks at the girl, and she yells at him for looking at the girl. That's exactly. He's like, well, I just looked at the girl. Yeah, I saw the way you were looking at her.
First of all, my husband would never look at the girl. He knows better. He would be ceiling and shoes. Right. He knows
He's
the whole
reading the
drill.
Bible in the corner.
This
This is the worst thruple ever.
There's the most uncomfortable eye contact with me at all times. That would probably be what
Yeah. I didn't even know there was another girl there. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's my massive red flag. Is I have jealousy issues that are like unfathomable.
Scorpio,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you do, so you got to break up with the guy and the girl. Do you have to sit both of them down? Like, how does that work?
So I
You
guess
get to pick one.
I guess in this situation we were all never officially dating. So I guess it just kind of exploded to a point where we stopped talking and got blocked and all the good stuff. So
it was blocking, huh?
Yeah. So I think it was kind of a lot of different mutual breakups at the same time, if that makes sense.
It all broke apart, not just okay.
She was just the kind of person who thought she wanted
Yeah.
a throuple,
Yeah.
and like you said, on paper it looked like a good idea, but once it actually happens,
It's
just
a whole thing.
That's tough.
Yeah. So
tough.
she was the one pushing for it, from the beginning, but then she's also the one that just blew it up in the end. So
Yeah,
it is definitely not for everybody.
It is definitely not.
I really thought it was for me too, and I think maybe if I had the right experience with the right people, maybe it would have worked out for me. But I think that kind of scared me away from that lifestyle a little bit, at least for now, and see what
Yeah.
maybe that's not the way to go.
Because it's like, okay, I'm gonna like be vulnerable with one person. That's hard enough in of itself, right? To like let down the walls and let another person in, and then you let another person in, and then but they already have their dynamic, and you're sort of coming in like, where do I? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I had come in when they were broken up.
Oh
and
no!
Me and her were first, and then
Right.
she said, "Hey, I'm getting back together with him and then kind of invited me into it. So it was a weird dynamic from the start.
And he's
but
like, yeah.
Right.
Before they had broken up, they'd been together for like 5 or 6 years. So it was a very long relationship that they had that I was coming into. So there was bound to be some really tough dynamics there, especially, you know, she's kind of along the lines of like she really, really needs help, and she just definitely has some issues that she needs to work out. So I think, you know,
So
a lot
you
of
walked
different
into
issues.
a whole thing.
I sure did. And I invite chaos into my life.
No.
Regretfully. So at the time I was like, yeah, let's just see what happens. But, you know, it just dug me further and further into a hole with, you know, things I probably should have never gotten involved with.
How old were you when all that happened?
This was last week.
And this was last year. Yeah, so I was 25 at the time. Yeah, so
I mean, 20s are for chaos. That's my opinion.
And
get it out of your system.
Just got out of that, you know, 8-year
Year.
relationship.
Yeah.
And I'd been with him since I was 17, so like I really never experienced being single truly because, you know,
Right.
even before that I had boyfriends and stuff. And so I think I was just kind of going off the rails a little bit at that time of my
Look at all
life.
the insight you gained, though.
Look at that.
Look at
Oh,
that.
tons. A
Look
little
at
too
that.
much. It
Look
was
at
like information overload during this time. So much happening, but, you know, we get through it.
I think "Let's See What Happens" is going to be on a lot of people's tombstones. I think that should be printed on a lot of people. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I was like, let's do it for the plot.
Yeah, but the good thing is, like, you like noticed it. You're like, all right, and like you were saying, 20s is for chaos. The problem is when you're like in your 40s, being like, why is it still so chaotic? Like, how do I?
Now get it
So
together.
I'm trying to get it all out of the way now.
You
so
think- you
then
would
I
think
can
that's how it
enjoy
works.
Peace later on. I don't know.
You would think.
Yeah.
I'm banking on it.
Now, sometimes when things are peaceful, like I feel like
Itchy.
Yeah. Like your natural, when your natural like default is like a little bit of chaos. Like for me, it was like childhood. It started like everything's been kind of chaos, and then stand-up comedy, and then whatever. Now it's like I'll just be sitting around my apartment, and it'll be like my dog will be sleeping at my feet. There'd be like a candle. There's like jazz music. You know, and I'm just like, how can I burn this down? You know, like, how can I shake?
Literally. Yep. That's how I am. I get too comfortable, and I'm like, something's got to change.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm trying to learn to be better at enjoying the peace.
I still do it. Married and with kids, I still like take so much on so that it still feels chaotic, even though it's like PTA meeting. You know what I mean? Like it's like all this like very like normal stuff, but there's so much of it that I still get to like feel that sense of chaos, even though none of it is like, you know, detrimental at this point.
Just
anyway.
a different type.
And you have the best like most chill husband too, so it's not even like he's not even giving you like little storylines or little plots to like you know what I mean, like you probably have the password to his phone and computer and know exactly where
I couldn't pick a fight with that man, and I do try sometimes. and it's just not, it's not there. It's not in him. He's just like, all right. You know, he just gives me one of those.
We're
like,
not doing that.
Fine, I'll just.
You ever see the people who've been married for a long time, but they still like there's still like chaos and drama, and they still fight, like they still get that like that need for chaotic energy met.
Yeah.
You don't have that.
That's not for me.
No.
That's not for me. No. I still got crazy girl in me. You know what I mean? So I have to. You know what I mean? I have to.
We see the hair. We know what you mean. Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
I have to have that healthy relationship, because if someone wants to go with me, like I'm gonna go. You know what I mean? And we won't last 50 years going head to head, toe to toe. It just isn't gonna work out for me. I need like a chill person who's gonna like when I'm getting off the rails, be like, I don't think.
Right.
Let's be kind.
Right.
I'm like, okay, fine. I'll act like an adult.
And he's a Cancer too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both have that. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You guys are very, very similar in that way.
Yeah. You guys go over there and be dramatic, and we're gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got big feelings. And then I have 2 little Scorpio children, and my daughter is
Both Scorpios.
just like me.
Oh, wow.
Just like me. My mom laughs all the time. She thinks it's great.
That's got to be tough, because how do you tell her when you're like looking into the future?
It's interesting. This is a whole tangent. I don't know if anyone cares, but this is interesting because raising a kid who's exactly like you, there's 2 parts to it. One is that they super trigger you, right? Because they need the same things as you, and like what, you know what I mean? So it's like me and my daughter really, really triggers me, but then I also remember being the 8-year-old version of myself, and how I had great parents. Everyone was super kind. I did not have like a traumatic childhood in any way, shape, or form, but I remember exactly what I wanted and didn't get. And so then I have to like pause and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, little girl, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna like give you all the thing, and it's like a way to reparent yourself with all the stuff that you wanted, but like obviously parents can't figure out every kid they have like on every single thing they need. So that's kind of been my experience with her, is that it's like both sides of it, is like, you are infuriating to me and I also want to give you every single thing I possibly can. You know what I mean?
100%. That's actually a great way to segue, because we do questions for Kristie on this show. Will you ask her what you had submitted? Because I think it's a great way to roll into it.
Yeah, so I've always been the kind of person who kind of always knew I never wanted to be married and I never wanted kids. I've just never had that motherly instinct, and there's just a lot of things that I want out of life that I just don't feel like they'd fit into, but I always have people constantly telling me, that'll change, you'll feel differently someday. So I guess I am curious, if that is statistically like something that happens, and is it unfair of me to pursue a relationship with someone who does want those things, and like, is it fair of me to ask them to give those things up? Because I feel like that is a lot of things that have ruined, my past relationship, and things I fear may interfere with the one I'm in now.
So a couple of things. I don't think it's fair to say that people grow out of thinking a particular way. You know what I mean? I don't think that it's necessarily age. My experience has been, and I have had many people who I've worked with have the same experience of not wanting to get married and then meeting a particular person that actually fits them when they they've gone through a lot of work to get themselves healthy and meet a healthy kind of person, and then they find that person and they're like, oh, this is the type of relationship that I would want to be in forever. That was my experience. I for many years was like, I'm never getting married because I don't want to sign up to be with someone forever because of my past experiences. And then I met my husband, and the interaction I had with him, I was like, now I get why people get married. This is absolutely something that I would sign up to be in forever. So I think that you can have revelations that make you feel differently, and especially in like relationships. I think that in relationships you can maybe meet someone or view something a different way that maybe makes you want something different than you wanted before. I think all people are open to having experiences where they really wanted to do this one particular thing their whole life, but then something happens, so they end up doing something else because their passions change. So people grow and change. So I think that it's not about getting older, but your life experience might lead you to have a different experience with a person.
But the kid thing, it's like, you in the relationship immediately? Because like the person's like, I want to have kids. Like, I don't. Like, all right, see you later.
The thing about being in a relationship is, I think if you bring up from the start that that's not something that you're looking for. If you're choosing to be with me, this could be something that I never want, and not like, well, maybe I'll want them later, or maybe I'll change my mind. It's like, I don't want this and I don't see that changing. This could be something that I don't want forever. I think that has to be established pretty quickly on, and then someone can choose to stay or someone can choose to go. But I think it's really important to be aware of how important it is to the other person, because assuming that they're going to change also doesn't make any sense. So if it's something they deeply want but they are with you, it could lead to resentment later on. Either they never have children and that's a resentment, or they figure that you're going to change your mind at some point and you don't, and then they want to be mad at you for not changing your mind.
Yeah. That's not her fault. It's
complicated. That's not none of it is your fault. The only thing you can do is be honest and upfront from the very beginning of it. And I talked to Justin a lot about someone being close to what you're looking for, but that there's a lot of people in the world, and that there is someone out there who is, even if you don't believe in soulmates, you got to believe in statistics, right? So there's another person in this world that's like a good match for you. And so if there's somebody who is close enough, but there's this fundamental thing that stops you from being able to move forward, or that is hindering the relationship, or is a constant, block, sometimes you got to think like, this was great and everything was wonderful and I love you and this was really close, but there's something else out there that I'm looking for, unfortunately. Not necessarily you and your relationship, but that's just my grand thing that I always say is that there's someone out there that's the match that wants what you want. So
so I do want to read this because you submitted I love this. We like to ask our guests like crazy dating experiences, and yours was so funny to me. I'm just gonna read it as you had submitted it, and it said, what is the worst date you've ever been on? And McKenna says, I drove 2 hours away to meet a guy who insisted on taking me to a fancy dinner and a movie at this special place out by where he lived. The plan was that I'd drive to him and he'd drive us that night. It's not bad, right?
Great.
So far?
Great.
2 hours
Seems like a good deal at the time.
2 hours is a long way for a date. That's a long...
It was slim pickings in my area.
Right.
At the
This
time.
is Tampa, right? This is
was Tampa.
This is probably the hottest guy in the Metroplex. I drove all the way there just for him to ask me if we could just have sex in the car really quick. I like that. First of all, I like that you put it in quotes. Second of all, I like that he put real quick.
Real quick.
Don't worry.
Real quick. We just.
He knows his brand.
Get this done.
It's not going to be fun, but it's going to be over really fast.
Real salesman.
To the point.
Yeah. In case you're not, yeah. Don't worry, it'll be over really fast. He wanted to have sex in the car really quick because his parents were home.
Okay.
And he wasn't going to be able to sneak out for longer than 20 minutes. He was 24. I checked.
I did. I had him take his ID out because I was like, "Are you joking right now?"
I like you carding the dude before you have sex with it. But you never said if you guys ever hooked up in the car. You left that part out.
We did. But then I left and I blocked him and I never spoke to him again.
You blocked him afterwards?
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm not going to go through that again. It was a terrible day.
She drove 2 hours.
Yeah, I was like, I did. I drove 2 hours.
Hey, I'm not judging.
Gotta get something out
Trust
of
me,
it.
I'm not judging.
I mean, he did warn you, though.
He did warn you.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not judging.
Yeah.
Oh
my goodness. No,
I learned a lot
no.
from that day, though, for sure. I'm like, you can drive to me if we're going out.
Yeah, there you go. McKenna was like, it was a terrible lay. I was like, yeah, he said it was going to be really quick. Like, he let you know in the beginning.
He did.
What do guys do? This is my favorite question. What do guys do that give you the ick?
Oh my gosh. So my biggest one, I think, is when they just think they're too cool to do something. Like if we're going out dancing and they're just standing there, and like I just think that's so like if anyone, just doesn't do what they want because they think they're too cool for it, it just rubs me the wrong way.
That's my exact same thing.
Yeah.
Anyone who's too cool, ugh, gross.
Right.
No, thank you.
Kristie hates a real cool guy.
Boring. I hate a real cool guy.
This one guy I dated back in high school, he wouldn't even there was just the dumbest things. Like we would go to the popsicle truck, like an ice cream truck would be coming around, and he'd be like, I can't be seen eating one of those. Like, it's just like the weirdest little things like that. And I was like, okay, next.
Was he thinking people were going to think he's gay because he's eating a banana split?
Exactly. Like, it was like that kind of vibe. I'm like, you just got to be just like this solid, like,
yeah.
It's just
he's like, well, I do
crazy
eat
to
it with
me.
no hands. So that's.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So that'd have to be my biggest ick.
If you're going to break into the world of nerd girls, you can't be too cool, right? Like, you've got to be, like, dressing up for Ren Fair. You got to wear the cosplay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you got to go hard at Halloween.
I need you to be a little weird, you know?
Got to carry a notebook.
It's a little strange.
I feel like you lack personality if you're, acting too cool for stuff. And
On the flip
that's
side,
a
though,
big,
can
big
you be
thing.
too goofy?
Yeah, I do think there is a line that can't be crossed. If you go a little too corny, then it's a little too much.
I believe the term is a milady. Like, that would be like the too goofy
Right.
type of guy.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Why is that so funny? Why is that such a perfect description?
I didn't
Me
coin
lady.
that
He's
term.
got like a
That's what it's
vest.
called.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
We know
what I
exactly
mean?
the guy you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Those
right?
guys like the anime. And
He's got like doing like card tricks.
Yeah.
The performer guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If it's a shtick, then no. Just
Right.
You just gotta not care.
Kristie, why is
It's gotta
me
be
lady
effortless.
the perfect description for that guy?
I don't
He's got like a
know.
velvet vest on for some reason.
He does. He always does. That's
Oh
for
my
sure.
god, that's why I try like I was talking to Danny, and she was like, I didn't know that you did comedy because when we hang out, you're so like not that you're not funny, right? But it's a little bit dry, and it's a little bit. I'm like, I don't want to be the guy who's like,
right, like constantly
juggling
need to look
balls.
at me.
Yeah. I got like
balls.
a nose on or whatever. I don't want my
think
flower squirts. I'm a comedian.
I think it's funnier when you don't expect it too.
Right.
You know?
Like
so you're right
that's
on
pretty
that.
funny. Like I actually do this professionally. Yeah. The too cool guy. I actually had to work through this recently. This was really I don't consider myself to be too cool, but there is like sometimes
No
I
one
get
does.
no one thinks I'm too cool?
No.
Okay. See, I told you she never lets me off the I went to this thing. It was called Ecstatic Dance, and I told Kristie about it. And it's this whole thing of and it was I met these hippies, and they do this thing on Sundays, and you go and you dance. It's a dance, and there's an hour dance where
Right.
you can't talk, okay? And you don't have to be good at dancing. It's, in fact, the opposite.
Right.
The worse you are, the better. You can't be drunk. You can't be on drugs. You can't wear shoes, and you can't talk. Those are kind of the only rules. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'll go. But there is that, like, when you're doing it, there's that voice of, like, I'm still too cool for this. And, like, look at them all doing the thing, right? And then you realize that no one's watching you. And then I start kind of dancing. And you could dance with people, but there's, like, a whole, like, you got to come up and get sort of a nonverbal consent. And it's very, like, you connect with. Anyways. But I'm fighting this, like, this inner child who, like, wants to play and be goofy and have fun. And then the other voice is like, you're a loser. Like, look at you. Like, look at everyone looking at you. You're stupid. And it's this constant. And I didn't realize how. And I guess that's the point of it, is to, like, just dance through that.
Right.
But it was hard.
It's interesting too, right? Because you're in the place, right?
Everyone's
like you're
doing
in
it.
the place where everyone's doing it. It's not like you're in the middle of Target, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, it was at a Walgreens. So.
Oh, well.
But no, yeah.
That actually sounds so cool. I want to do
It was amazing. And like it was like this really cool like experience, like it was awesome. But yeah, for the first 30 minutes I was like, you're an asshole. Look how dumb you are. Like there's people crying, dancing. There's
Right.
people like, you know, whatever. It's like this whole expressive thing, and I'm like, but I'm too cool for this.
Right.
Like
Right.
what, you know, the guy with the Harry Potter tattoo is now suddenly the cool guy of the ecstatic dance community.
Correct.
It was wild.
I'm the coolest kid at the ecstatic dance
I'm a
party.
stand-up comedian. Okay, this is all. But then after like 45 minutes in, I was like, I just like let go, and I was like, no one was watching. It
Right.
felt like no one was in. It was really nice. So,
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I really want to do something like that.
I think they have them out here. This was in Texas.
Oh, no way.
But I think that they have them out here too. We'll look into it. It'll be Isaac, will you come dance with us?
Yeah, dude, they have silent discos on the beach all the time.
It's not silent disco. It's different.
Well, I wasn't paying attention.
They have a lot of stuff like that at Bonner.
Isaac's the cool guy. Isaac would be
Isaac's-
too cool.
Oh, no.
Isaac's like,
No.
I used to be in a band.
So you used to be in a band.
Yeah, that's true.
Now I'm a DJ.
No.
There was another thing I wanted to add that what do you think your good qualities are that you bring into a relationship?
Oh gosh, I do think one good quality I have, but I feel like it's also kind of a bad quality depending on the context, is I'm very honest, but I feel like I'm almost honest to a fault. Like I feel like you'll never have a problem with me lying to you about any of the important stuff, but it's also going to be probably things you don't want to hear, and maybe I don't know, because I feel like a lot of my truths aren't exactly things people want to hear if you're in a relationship with me, but
Is it
at
necessary
least
truth?
it's
Or you're just like,
yeah.
I'd like to let you know exactly my thoughts all the time.
Both. I definitely word vomit just everything to my partner all the time. And, you know, maybe there's some things that should be left for, I don't know, a therapist, for example. But I mean, like, I don't know. I
Interesting.
feel like my views on relationships, too, are very different than a lot of people's. And I'm still kind of figuring that out at this point. So I feel like I can be very honest, but I might also be very confusing. So I guess that's kind of more leaning towards a red flag, but
I would like to know where I stand, other than being sort of like, you know, like 6 months later, like, yeah, well, I don't like it when you do this. Like, why didn't you tell me 6 months ago?
I'm a
Yeah.
very like what I want changes a lot, and like I don't love that about myself, but it's true. And so I feel like, you know, what might have been true 4 months ago isn't now, and it might not be in the future. And I do wish that I could figure out like for sure what I want, but that might be a long time from now. So, I mean, the best I can do is just be honest about it.
Well, I still don't know, so you got time.
Yeah. And
Well,
it's an
that's good.
interesting thing because it's like a good thing that sometimes, like, you know, some certain qualities that are good, if they're overdone, just become like negatives, but it's still like a good trait back and forth. So it's just, you know, finding the middle of all that. Justin
Yeah.
just talked about how, like, he only calls me if he's ready to hear what I have to say. You know what I mean? It seems like that's like the kind of thing that you're talking
Yeah,
about as
yeah.
well.
Do you find this is like what I like to do. I've been on like this self-help journey for like a year now, like trying to be, you know what I mean? Like I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and I've been learning about like codependence. Are you familiar with that at all? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the book that I'm going to suggest right now, which is
Okay.
called Facing Codependence, which is like really, this has been really helpful. And so I just want to read a couple of characteristics of codependence.
Okay.
And it's something that I've been working on for a while now. So let me see if this, just a couple of things, right? I have difficulty identifying what I am feeling. I do not ask others to meet my needs or desires. This is a huge one. I value other people's approval of my thinking, feelings, and behavior over my own. So what other people, what are you laughing?
Laugh
Is this
at all.
because of me?
What?
Because this identifies with me, or you identify with this?
I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
I have to be needed in order to have a relationship with others.
That is not none of that is my truth, except for the very last one. I do like to feel needed in a relationship. I'm a helper person, so
Yeah.
I do in friendships and relationships. I like to feel helpful and like of need.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, no.
I do feel, because like that is a lot of the reason I got out of that 8-year relationship, was because I felt like we were so codependent. I just lost sight of who I was. I didn't think I ever was able to find out who I was because I was so focused on him and his needs. And so like a lot of the reason I came out here was to find out who I was and find out who I am without somebody else next to me doing everything for me and with me. And, you know, so it is something I'm scared about slipping back into with this new relationship, is I already feel, you know, all of those things, you know, the codependency is starting to kick back in. So that's something that scares me a lot, I feel like. But I definitely resonate with like almost all of those.
It's interesting how it runs in the background for me, where I didn't even know until I started doing the work and the research on it, like that's how I had been operating for so long. It's just like sort of this thing, and you're like, oh my God, you know?
Well, they're all protective mechanisms, right? Like that's why they run in the background, is because it's like if I ask for what I want, I'm going to be too much of a burden and the person's going to leave. If if I say that I don't like something, they're just going to get mad and leave. They're not going to change for me, you know? So it's all like that protective padding that goes on, you know, in the back of our minds. We're all always protecting ourselves from the past repeating itself. Meanwhile, the behavior that we use makes it so that the past constantly repeats itself.
Yep. So I think that's a good book to recommend to people. And it's really changed me in my like just relationship with people in the last like 5-6 months, like telling people no and putting up, you know, like I used to say, when I would say no, I would feel horrible. Like I would just could not. And now like practicing saying no, like, no, it's okay. And then be like, all right. And then like, you're like, wait, what do you mean all right? Like people like, you're like, don't freak out.
Yeah. I think a big thing with not slipping back into stuff is to put things on paper and then hide them away somewhere. Like we talked a lot the first time we did the podcast about must-haves and deal breakers, like putting the 5 things that you must have in a relationship in order to be happy. Independence, you know, security, like all of the things that are whatever it is for you. And then the deal breakers are like very specific things of like, if this happens, I could not be happy in a relationship.
Right.
And you put them down on paper. If they asked me to do this, if they were too dependent on me, if whatever those things are, and you just list as many as you can that truly you need or truly would be a deal breaker for you, and then you hide them away. In between relationships, you update it, and then that way when you're 5 months into a relationship, you check it, make sure you're still on track.
Right.
Check it, make sure you're still on
Right.
track all throughout the relationship, so that you can hold yourself accountable, I guess.
Yeah. the deal breakers, like they can't live with their parents. We can't have sex in a
No,
car.
No.
They can't be
We
2
won't
hours
allow
away.
them out like past a curfew.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't also be in a relationship.
Right. They can't be currently getting back with their ex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Like that.
Thank
We
you for
really loved having
me.
you. Yeah.
I love airing it all out.
That was
you
great.
know?
So we hope that you
Times.
guys
Yeah,
got
I
something out
didn't
of
get
this
to
episode.
half of it, so.
Well, we'll have you back on.
Absolutely.
We'll do a
Till next
part
time.
2. Yeah. All right, guys, that is our show. We do have a phone number that you can call with your questions to Kristie and I. It's 323-272-3908 is the hotline. And just make sure there's a lot of podcasts going on in the studio. Make sure that you say, hey, this is for Foster the Podcast. This is for Kristie or for Justin or whatever. But 323-272-3908 with your questions for us, and we will try to help. Again, thanks to our producer, Isaac Abrams. Thanks to Kristie. Thank you to our guest, McKenna. We'll see you guys next time.